So I want to kind of shift a little bit and talk about data, because data is probably one of the big challenges that people have in terms of around running anything, whether it's their CRM or their contact center. It's having data insights for the IVA and how that's constructed. How would you compare that against the data insights that we get from a human conversation? Because we're using quality management technology, we're using you know, agent assist, where we're monitoring the conversation, we're providing things to people in terms of assistance in the conversation, but in the conversation that is, or maybe more appropriately, the engagement that's with the IVA. And if you have full containment, there's another way to analyze that engagement. How rich is the data that comes out of the IVA from Five9 when it comes to understanding what that engagement was, understanding the impact to the customer and customer satisfaction, and then maybe how you use that to improve going forward?
Okay, that's a loaded question because we're touching multiple different, it's kind of across the journey, right? So let's talk a little bit about sort of kind of the entry, the front door.
Mhm.
So whether the front door is going to be a digital experience, right, where you start with a chatbot or SMS, or maybe interaction with an IVA, we're capturing data at that point. We've got tools, AI insights, and data analytics. Five9 just acquired a company by the name of ACS, which can actually open the aperture to look at those data sources like the CRMs and the ERPs and other sort of industry specific solutions to be able to really provide full visibility. So analytics is top of mind. But as that customer takes that journey, regardless of what modality they enter, we're capturing information. We're providing it to either the company, if it's in a self-service, single-threaded interaction. If it's multi-threaded, we can provide that visibility into all those threads through our VCC platform. When it touches a live agent, that data is pulled forward, right? And this is where I always ask our customers to think about what are they presenting to that live agent? How prepared are they making that live agent to really manage that interaction? And also, if a live agent is working across different types of product lines or service lines, can we use Agent Assist to
Mhm.
give them coaching cards? We've got transcriptions, we've got summaries, we've got checklists, we've got AI insights. There's a lot of tools that we provide in our platform that allow them to take advantage of what the customer is saying. And then we have other tools like WFA or workforce automation that allows us to be able to pull in data from third parties. And then we've got a reporting tool across the top that allows us to really look beyond the contact center experience to those supporting business systems.
Do you have
So
a dashboard for the IVA in particular? So like typically you have a dashboard that says I've got, 300 agents that are working, 200 of them are on calls. So many are working on this. This is what, some of the statistics real time that's going on. Do you have that for the IVA alone and your IVAs period?
yeah, we've got a dashboard. We can look at the number of IVAs in flight, right? Depending on how you design it, right? Because we have a platform called Studio that allows you to create either a single canvas or multiple canvases with different workflows. You can understand where those IVAs are sitting, very similar to what you would do with live agents and queues and what we
Mhm.
like to call campaigns. So
Okay.
you can get that level of visibility, but until you tie it all together, it's just data silos. You really need that end-to-end customer journey, and now more and more the agent experience as well that you pull into that.
Do you name your IVAs? So I know that for the Five9 business model, you purchase a number of seats, kind of like you would for the contact center. So I need 20 IVAs, I need 40 IVAs. To be perfectly honest, not everybody does that. I think it's brilliant for a variety of reasons, but do you name them? Is there a Dave and a Janet IVA? Is there persona IVAs? Like what's the distinction across those IVAs, or are they conditional based upon how a call gets routed to them?
Yeah, so you could, right? I don't necessarily always recommend that you do,
Mhm.
because if you think about an IVA, and in fact, let me take a roll this back just a second, because you mentioned something that is really key in how we differentiate ourselves.
Yes,
So some of the competition treats IVA as an engine where they're charging by transaction.
that's right.
And what we're really treating IVAs at Five9 is a resource, very similar to just a person that just happens to be a virtual person, which means just like a human being, I can work on one task at a time. And once I'm complete with one task, I can maybe a self-service call steering, right? Once I get you to where you need to be, then I can go work on getting some of their balance. And now I can, and then once that's complete, now I can work on maybe resetting a password. Oh, now I can work on something else. So we're not limiting them, right, to a single action. We could name them if we wanted to, but what that really begs is the idea that we can mix and match IVAs. So just like in a contact center, you have different skill sets, right? We can do that with an IVA. So for example, if you looked at the call volume and you realize, especially if they're just starting out, they need IVAs that can do ASR and text to speech really well and handle certain modalities. Well, that might be what we call our standard IVA. And that's 80% of the call volume, at least today, for example, with this example customer. But this customer wants to incorporate more natural language, right? So we say 20% of the calls going forward might be natural language. So rather than have 100 IVAs that do natural language, and now you've got some capabilities that are essentially uh, not a good fit for 80% of the calls, we can mix and match, which means as the customer reaches that tipping point where they're doing more and more with natural language, we essentially just swap out that resource from a virtual IVA perspective. And that's that investment protection I was talking about.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And I want to go back to, again, the model that you have, because I do think it's brilliant. Because most people, when they're thinking of the contact center, it's really about how many took us and seats do we have? And so I have 300 people. And maybe as you look at some contraction, maybe you don't have contraction like you mentioned earlier, but maybe you do have some contraction. Well, how does that get refilled? By having the fact that you purchase 25 or 30 seats of an IVA, psychologically, I believe, shows where that fill is. Like, it's very easy to consume because it's part of the context and the construct of how a contact center works today. So it's easy for people to adopt. And when it goes down to the transactional level, I think it makes it harder. So I just think that is actually a really, really smart way to approach the market. And I think it's a key differentiator. And I think it also maybe makes it easier to buy.
Yeah, philosophically, we're trying to implant the idea in our customers that this is a resource very similar to human beings.
Hmm.
So if you're trying to buy them, minutes at a time at a rate per minute, that really negates that approach. The approach is here's a resource. They're available to you 24 hours a day, right? 7 days a week. They never get sick. They never take vacation.
Hmm.
You can very quickly scale when you need to, and they have capabilities and skills. And when you get to natural language, they all speak multiple languages. So treat it as a resource. And I advise my customers, start small, solve a problem, right? But understand that there's so much further capabilities that you can support. So then you give them a new job and then a new job and a new job. And it's very similar to an employee. You think about onboarding an employee, right? For the first 30 days, they're just trying to find their way around the office, whether it's a brick and mortar or a virtual office. Then they start to get good at the job, right? And by 60, 90 days, they start to actually improve the job and get some efficiencies. It's no different than an IVA, right? At first, you start them off small. They're going to learn more because they're now exposed to more data, specific data that is relative to your customer environment. And then you take that, and the smarter customers are actually taking that data capture through transcriptions and logging and being able to just reincorporate it back to expand those tasks that the IVA is responsible for.